After bringing the Monado and Shulk back to Colony 9, Dixon raises him for the next 14 years. Shulk is completely unaware of Dixon's motivations, or that Zanza has inhabited his body. He does, however, feel some side effects. He occasionally will hear Zanza's voice in the back of his mind, trying to influence his actions. 13 years after the Monado expedition, the construction of Galahad Fortress begins. The fortress is a major power play on Egil's part, since it's located on the Mechonis sword, which still remains lodged in the waist of the Bionis and leads to its right thumb. He is essentially attempting to build a base right in front of enemy lines. Being on the sword gives Egil direct access to the boundless amounts of ether within the Bionis, which he plans to siphon as fuel for his army. Noticing that the Mechon are operating scarily close to the Bionis in heavy numbers, Colonies 6 and 9 form a joint military group and attempt to force the Mechon further back. The linchpin of this operation is a 29-year-old soldier named Dunban. It is Dunban who is chosen by the other Homs to wield the Monado. His skill in the art of swordplay is unmatched. Not only is he a master in combat, but he's also quite smart, having a knack for tactical thinking. Accompanying him are his friends Mumkar, who is incredibly envious of Dunban's opportunity to use the Monado, and Dixon, who is still pretending to be a Homs to watch over it. Even though the Homs have such a talented swordsman using a weapon as powerful as the Monado, there's a problem. Anyone thus far who has tried activating the sword has simply been unable to handle the raw energy that it contains. Dunban, though, through a combination of sheer willpower, determination, and Zanza's permission, is able to exercise a modicum of control over the blade. This boundless strength comes from love. This is because back home in Colony 9, Dunban has a sister, Fiora, who is 12 years younger than him. Shortly after she was born, their father was killed by a Mechon. The fate of their mother is unclear, but regardless, it was up to Dunban to protect and raise his sister, almost like a father would. When Dunban holds the Monado in his hands and takes every second of excruciating pain, he's not just thinking of his brothers and sisters in arms, but his family. Dunban must protect her. So, despite being given orders to pull the line back from the Mechonis sword and onto the Bionis waist, he refuses and presses forward. Dixon reluctantly joins him, and Mumkar, wanting to live another day, abandons the two and plans to steal the Monado after they fall in battle. While running away, he trips and is killed by a group of Mechon in the shadows. Dixon and Dunban fight valiantly, and for a moment, it almost seems like the Mechon will overtake them. But before that happens, Dunban stands and summons every last ounce of strength remaining in his body. He activates the Monado and rushes towards the approaching mass of some of the strongest Mechon they've ever seen. Almost single-handedly, Dunban cuts every last one of them down and succeeds in defending the Bionis and its people. This event will go down in history as the Battle of Sword Valley. Dunban's victory has come at a cost. Since he forced himself to fight through so much pain from wielding the Monado, his body has taken irreparable damage. Dunban's actions have cost him the use of his right arm. Evac ships rush the injured back to Colony 9 after the battle has ended. Among the many people on the ships, Dunban is brought out on a stretcher. Fiora and Shulk, both aged 17 at this point, run to his side. Dunban struggles to speak, and Shulk leans in closer to hear.
It was the Monado. It was controlling me. Even so, it saved us. Saved our future. Next, it will be up to you.
A year has passed since Dunban crippled the Mechon forces, and the Homs colonies have lowered their guard, attempting to return to some kind of normalcy. Sadly for them, Egil will soon change that. Refusing to allow his losses to impede him, he has finally finished constructing Galahad Fortress. Shulk has grown into a kind and thoughtful young man. As established, he's unaware of the fact he's been dead for most of his life. Zanza's soul lurks within him, waiting for the right moment to awaken again. In the years since his rescue from Valak Mountain, Dixon has taken him in as a surrogate son. Shulk wields his two-handed junk sword with surprising skill for someone of his stature. In between his travels around the Bionis and his secret trips to the Fallen Arm, Dixon would even educate him in various trades like building, machining, and writing. Shulk proved extremely proficient, and this has led him to a career at Colony 9's defense force in the weapons lab. He spends much of his time studying the Monado, attempting to understand its secrets. After all, his parents gave their lives to find it. Shulk feels like the Monado was their final gift to him, so it's his responsibility to discover its true power. Though his obsession with this goal can consume him a little too much, he's sometimes so absorbed in his work that he even forgets to eat some days. Thankfully, Shulk has two close friends who keep him grounded: Rhine, his best friend, and Dunban's sister, Fiora. She and Rhine have known Shulk since childhood. Their friendships were rocky at first, but they ended up getting along very well. Fiora is a confident and determined young woman. Being the sister of the great Dunban, hero of the Homs, there's certainly some pressure on her shoulders, but she handles it well. She gladly takes care of her brother, who is still recovering from his injuries sustained at the Battle of Sword Valley. There's a bit of romantic tension between Shulk and Fiora, since it's very clear the two of them have feelings for each other, but neither feels comfortable enough to properly express them. Fiora cooks meals for him on a frequent basis, and he loves them despite the fact that he has an unrefined palate. Either way, he enjoys the gesture, as well as her company whenever possible. Rhine is Shulk's best friend. Being a year older than Shulk and Fiora, as well as having a much larger build, he feels an overwhelming need to protect his friends, and does so frequently. His size, along with Dunban's heroics at the Battle of Sword Valley, inspired him to join the Colony 9 Defense Force under Colonel Vengar. In combat, he wields a defensive weapon called a driver, which Shulk built for him. While Rhine may not be necessarily as bright as his two friends, he always means well and cares deeply for them. His poor critical thinking skills sometimes put his friends in less than ideal circumstances. On one day in particular, as Shulk and Fiora were coming back to the lab after spending some time in the park, Rhine attempts to pick up the Monado out of curiosity. Not expecting the immense power that it commands, he's dragged around the room, breaking machinery. He accidentally strikes Fiora with the sword and falls to the floor. Shulk is entirely unconcerned for Fiora's well-being, and instead inspects the broken parts out of frustration. Fiora, angered at his lack of interest in her safety, is enraged further when Shulk tells her that she couldn't have been hurt because the Monado just can't harm Homs. During their verbal altercation, Shulk picks up the Monado and accidentally bangs it against the housing unit, causing the sword to open.
Look at you, worthless without the Monado.
Until I've scrapped each and every one of you!
So, of course I want to get my revenge!
Your blade, it did not cut deep enough.
No!
Shulk has been shown a vision of the future by Zanza. He just doesn't know it yet. He admits to his friends that this has actually happened before. Sometimes when conducting research with the Monado, he witnesses strange things, people and places he's never seen. They brush it off, and Rhine tells Shulk why he was waiting for them in the lab. He's been tasked by the Colonel to retrieve some ether cylinders from ancient wreckage located deep within Tephra Cave, west of Colony 9. The information has been lost to time, but this large machine once belonged to the High Entia, and the Homs have been using the excess fuel reserves stored inside for decades. The two set out for Tephra Cave together, and Fiora joins them later on, unsure if Ryan is actually capable of protecting Shulk from the monsters inside after his stupid decision that day. The trio make it to the cylinder hangar and make quick work of the robots protecting the wreckage. Just as the group finishes collecting the ether, they begin hearing a blaring noise from Colony 9. Siren 2 is being broadcast, which can only mean one thing. After an entire year of silence, the Mechon have returned. And not just that, they're attacking their home directly, something that's almost unthinkable. The Mechons scarcely venture to regions this low on the Bionis. Dunban looks out his home's window and hobbles to the door. He needs to protect everyone again. Shulk, Ryan, and Fiora run with every ounce of their strength to the entrance of the colony to help in any way they can. The Mechon have completely overrun the colony, killing people and eating their corpses. The most striking difference in this attack is a new model of Mechon, one with a face. Eggel's secret weapon has finally been deployed. With its massive claws and hulking form, it rips apart Defense Force equipment and destroys the military district before moving on. Fiora runs into their house to try and get Dunban to safety, but he's nowhere to be seen. Out of breath and terrified of the current situation, the three resolve to make their way back to Shulk's lab to try and get to the Monado, the only thing that could repel an attack of this size. By the time they get there, though, the entrance to the weapons lab has been blocked with rubble from the metal-faced Mechon's assault. After a moment of contemplation, Shulk suggests booking it across the colony again, this time to the mobile artillery that's parked in the residential district. They can use the ether that they collected today to power it on. As they run across the bridge connecting the districts, they're ambushed by a swarm of Mechon. Shulk and Ryan clear a path for Fiora to get through, but after she runs to the other side, the two of them are slowly overwhelmed. Even worse, a pillar falls and cuts off access to the residential district and Fiora.
Out of here! Shulk, don't be stupid! Hold on!
In the nick of time, Dunban has come to the rescue, wielding the Monado. Despite his numerous injuries, Dunban has taken hold of the sword just as he did 1 year ago. He can think of nothing but protecting his home. Dunban, Shulk, and Ryan run around the north perimeter of Colony 9 to try and rendezvous with Fiora. However, on their way, Dunban's body gives in and he collapses on the ground, vomiting blood and dropping the Monado. He cannot take another second of it. It's too much. Not seeing another option, Shulk sprints towards the Monado and takes hold of it himself. To Ryan and Dunban's shock, Shulk has flawless control over the Monado. In fact, the sword has given Shulk the power to see his enemies' attacks before they happen. Unbeknownst to them, this is a power granted only to Shulk by Zanza. Unwilling to wait around and question how this is even possible, Dunban takes up his spare glaive in his left hand and accompanies Shulk and Ryan the rest of the way to the residential district. The moment that they enter, Metalface makes an entrance, blocking their progress. The boys fight tooth and nail against this Mechon, but nothing, not even the Monado, is able to damage it. Baffled at this, Shulk points out that this Mechon has a unique red light. The faced Mechon lands heavy blows on Dunban, Ryan, and Shulk, completely immobilizing them on the ground. Now stunned, the three watch as Fiora appears, piloting the mobile artillery and attempting to fell the Mechon. At this moment, Shulk sees a vision of the near future. This metal-faced Mechon is going to win, and he's going to kill her. The woman he loves is going to die. He struggles to get to his feet, but he just can't move. He has to stop it. He has to. try as he might, he is powerless. Shulk watches in horror as everything he saw in his vision comes to fruition.
I'll kill you!
There's nothing they can do to stop this Mechon, and after receiving the signal to retreat, the faced Mechon flies away, leaving the burning colony behind without a care in the world. Several weeks have passed since that day. Colony 9 is still reeling from its major losses. Without much of a plan, Shulk and Rein take the Monado and decide to venture forth on a quest. Their aim is to destroy every last Mechon and get revenge on the metal-faced model that took the life of Fiora. Dunban watches the two from his window. They walk down the road, and just as they're out of sight, he whispers that when he's well enough, he'll join them. The two make their way deeper into Tephra Cave. This time their goal is to reach the Bionis leg, and eventually Colony 6 through a set of different tunnels. After a long day of traveling, the two set up camp, and Rein takes first watch as Shulk sleeps. In his dreams, he's contacted by the disembodied voice of Alvis. He tells him many cryptic things, the most important of which is that he must find the true Monado. The dream is cut short by Rein, who wakes him up in a panic. They've been surrounded by Arachno. They quickly dispatch them, but not before Shulk has another vision. Another death is shown to him. This time, Rein is killed by an Arachno queen. Clearly uncomfortable seeing another one of his friends die, Shulk contemplates telling Rein, but before he can, Rein is captured by a web and pulled up into a higher level of the cave. After a mad dash towards the spider's nest, Shulk begins watching the vision come true. He fears that, because of his inaction, he will watch as another one of his loved ones dies in front of him. Not again, he says. He summons all of his strength and desire to protect Rein, and the Monado reacts. The sword glows bright yellow, and a barrier of energy surrounds the two of them. Shulk has unlocked one of the Monado's many hidden powers, Monado Shield, the power to protect. The duo squashes the spiders and emerge from the other side of Tephra Cave to see the sight of Bionis Leg's beautiful landscape. Out in the distance, they can see some kind of fire. Upon further inspection, it looks to be a kind of buggy. After touching the vehicle, Shulk begins having another vision. A young boy is being attacked by two Arden. Rein and Shulk rush to the location and protect the boy, whose name is Juju. He brings them back to the refugee camp, filled with people from Colony 6. This camp is led by his older sister, Sharla. Sharla is a caring young woman who works as a medic in the Colony 6 Defense Force alongside her fiancé Gatto, one of the best sharpshooters on Bionis. He has a bit of a temper, but that's because he's so committed to destroying Mechon, even if it kills him. Although Sharla's just 21, she takes on a motherly role around the refugee camp, and especially with her little brother Juju. She wields an ether rifle, which she can use to heal her allies. It would seem that the Mechon had ravaged their home as well. Unfortunately, they did not have the power of the Monado on their side, and they were unable to fight back. Sharla and Juju fled with their fellow citizens into hiding, and have taken up leadership roles amongst the group. Gatto and his commanding officer Otharon stayed behind to fight the invaders. It would seem that they had failed, since the Mechon have now begun using the colony, as well as the extensive ether mine below it, as a base. Sharla reprimands Juju for running off like he did, and suggesting that they try to take back the colony. She reminds him that the other refugees need their help, and he storms off. Before anyone realizes what's happening, Juju hops back into his buggy and starts to make his way to Colony 6. Juju crashes again and is captured by a Mechon. Almost immediately, Shulk has another vision. This time, he sees Sharla and Juju being killed by a tentacled Mechon. Despite her skepticism of Shulk's so-called premonitions, she joins Rein and Shulk on their journey. In Gado's absence, Sharla begins to draw similarities between him and Rein, which leads to her to develop a bit of a crush on him. The trio make their way to the location in the vision, and sure enough, Juju is held captive there. During the ensuing battle, Shulk unlocks a new power from the Monado. He can now grant himself and his allies incredible movement and reaction time with Monado's speed. They work in tandem to free Juju, and with the Monado at their side, they destroy the Mechon in no time. Shulk is extremely confused though, since there were some differences in his vision from their battle. As if on cue, another Mechon descends from the sky. Just like the one that attacked Colony 9, this one has a face, and the Monado does not affect it. Unlike Metal Face though, this one talks. To make matters worse, it's gotten a hold of Juju as well. Shulk and company struggled to do much of anything against this new-faced Mechon, and it looks like it may be the end for them. Just before it strikes a fatal blow, the red lights on its body begin to flash green. As quick as it came, the mysterious face flies off, but not before saying that if they want Juju back, they should come to Colony 6. After a few hours of rest, the group departs to Colony 6 to save Juju for a third time and potentially find Gado. Upon arriving, Sharla recommends taking a route through the ether mines below the colony. Before they know it, they've stumbled upon Atharon, who has been fighting back against the Mechon for almost an entire month by himself. When the group makes it to a safe place, he explains that Gado disappeared after a failed attack on the Mechon, leaving behind nothing but his rifle. But he believes that he's still alive somewhere. They agree to join forces and destroy the faced Mechon who took Juju and the other Homs. Shulk has another vision, this time of Atharon seemingly sacrificing his life in the coming battle. Atharon, irritated by Shulk's hesitance, marches forward without the others. Rein and Sharla reassure Shulk that they will be able to change the future. They've done it before, and they could do it again. Rein, Shulk, and Sharla find their way to the bottom of the central pit through a series of elevators, while Atharon scales the sides of the walls. At the bottom, they find the floor stained with blood, and the faced Mechon, who calls himself Zord, holding Juju captive. Gado is nowhere to be seen. Zord is unable to take any meaningful damage, despite their best efforts. That is, before Atharon begins attacking him with a mobile artillery parked nearby. Atharon then pushes Zord into the ether river running below the mines. Even though ether is the building block of all life in this universe, when in its liquid form, the element is highly acidic. Zord tries to pull Atharon into the river, but before he sacrifices himself, like in the vision, Shulk and Rein are able to save him together. Zord sinks to the bottom, and the group make their way to the elevator, having altered the future once again. Impressed by her courage, Atharon gives Sharla Gado's rifle to remember her fiancé by. While exiting the mines, Zord, somehow still alive, ambushes them. His armor plating is almost entirely melted off, allowing the Homs to damage him normally.
Got to hand it to you. You beat me without even releasing the true power of the Monado.
Having rescued Juju and Atharon, the party takes a break outside the entrance to the mine. The arduous day, long since past, has turned into a stormy night. And just before Shulk and the others breathe a sigh of relief, Metalface reappears, alongside a group of other faced Mechon. Just like Zord, Metalface can talk. And with every single word, he belittles Shulk as much as possible, even bringing up how he killed Fiora in front of him. Blinded by rage, Shulk attempts to fight Metalface, but, as already has been established, the Monado is essentially useless against faced Mechon. Before Metalface is able to strike again, a shot rings out in the distance.
That's now. Let him have it, beast. kept you. Looks like we were just in time.
Dunban and Dixon have made their entrance and assist in the fight against the Mechon, but even the heroes of Sword Valley aren't much help. Metalface begins charging up a blast of ether, but as he's about to fire, a Telethia swoops in to disable the Mechon in the area with its own ether energy. This Telethia, being secretly controlled by Alvis, flies away shortly after. While Metalface has been distracted, Shulk takes this opportunity to strike him as hard as possible. And at this moment, Zanza gives Shulk another vision.
We must be outside the tower.
Welcome, true heir to the Monado.
Father!
Weak and pathetic.
What or who are you? You will pay for what you've done! You will know the pain and suffering you caused the Emperor and Fiora!
Before Shulk even understands what's happening, Metalface and the surviving Mechon fly away, leaving Ryan and Shulk unable to reach them. Enraged, the band of Homs, battered but still alive, decide to make their way to the location shown in Shulk's vision, Prison Island, the place where, for thousands of years, Zanza's body has been held captive. Dixon shares that Prison Island is located on the head of the Bionis, where the Hyentia live. The other Homs are surprised to hear this. The general sentiment among their community is that Hyentia are nothing but an ancient myth, a fairy tale, but Dixon claims to have met some himself. In order to get to the head of the Bionis, they travel through Satoral Marsh, on the Titan's lower back. In the disgusting but beautiful swamp, they find all manner of Hyentian relics, from back when they inhabited the region. Upon reaching a cave that will take them further up the Bionis, Dixon, Juju, and Atharon decide to stay behind and help the Homs colonies rebuild. As the group parts ways, Dixon begins to worry about how he's been lying to Shulk and his companions. Maybe it's uncertainty, or even regret over the path he's chosen. Either way, Dixon marches forward to enact the will of Lord Zanza, with no further thoughts on the matter. While Shulk and the others pass through the tunnel that would lead them to Machna Forest, a group of Hyentia are fighting against a Telethia nearby. The girl, named Melia Antiqua, is the princess of Alcamoth and daughter of its current emperor, Saurian Antiqua. Accompanying her are her 4 royal guards, Isel, Hogard, Garen, and Demil. The Telethia seemingly kill the guards with ether and begin their transformation process, and Melia is now left alone to fight the beast. She uses the remaining ether in the area to fire a concentrated blast at the Telethia, injuring it and causing it to flee. Melia, on the other hand, passes out from exhaustion and ether deficiency. Very shortly after, Shulk and the others stumble upon Melia's unconscious body and decide to help revive her. Shulk makes his way to the base of the enormous waterfall nearby to get the purest water ether crystals possible, as Sharla says that is the best way to help. After filling up on the crystals, Alvis appears before Shulk in person for the first time, although he feels like he recognizes him from somewhere.
What are they? Alvis, get out of the way! I'll deal with this myself. From the left? Then I'll go.
Melia's guards, now transformed into Telethia, have begun attacking Shulk. Alvis takes hold of the Monado, and in his demonstration, unlocks one of the Monado's powers for him, Monado Purge. This ability prevents the Telethia from using their powers to read minds. Shulk is bewildered at Alvis's ability to wield the sword. The reason for this being possible is likely because, as the arbiter of this world, he is the one that actually permits Zanza and Meyneth to have their power. As soon as Shulk turns his back, Albus disappears in order to continue watching from afar. Shulk returns to Melia with the ether crystals, and Charlotte is able to use them to revive her. When Melia awakens, she is so surprised that she accidentally slaps Shulk. After her apologies and the formalities that follow, she agrees to guide them to the head of the Bionis in exchange for helping her. As established, Melia is a high Entia. However, she's actually half Homs, which brings her quite a bit of shame, since half Homs high Entia are typically looked down upon in their society. Despite this, she keeps a level head and her emotions held in. Shulk and company are completely unaware of her heritage, mistaking her for a Homs since her wings are actually covered by a bonnet. Being a high Entia, her lifespan is far greater than that of a Homs. She may not look it, but she's 88 years old at this point. In combat, she's able to utilize ether completely on her own, which is then amplified with the help of her staff. Using ether this way is extremely uncommon, even among high Entia. Melia takes them to Frontier Village, the Nopon Haven. Oh my god, I said Nopon. The Nopon Haven found deep within the forest. Upon their arrival, the leader of the village, Chief Dunga, greets Melia. She asks him if the Homs may use the pathway to the Bionis head, and he grants the request. However, before they leave, Shulk volunteers to assist Melia in destroying the Telethia that plagues the region. He feels that he needs to do his best to try and stick by her. She appeared in his vision involving Prison Island, and he's making sure that it comes true. Before they depart on the mission, Dunga, who is also concerned about the threat the Telethia poses to Machna, offers the help of the strongest and fiercest warrior in Frontier Village, the legendary Hirapon Ricky. Ricky is not actually as powerful as Chief Dunga makes him out to be. He's really just a common variety Nopon. The reason Dunga has named him as the Hirapon is that he owes a large sum of money to Frontier Village. He has 11 little pawn and his wife, Okka, to take care of, but he just can't seem to keep up in terms of finances. So, in exchange for voiding out his debts, the chief forces him to accompany the group to defeat the Telethia. After making a rather strange entrance, he asks that the party pick up some gear for him in the shops at the village. He wields a Nopon weapon called a biter, which is a sort of stick with a head modeled at the end. At 40 years of age, he's quite a bit more mature than Shulk and his friends initially give him credit for. Despite some of his irritating tendencies, Ricky means well and truly does want to help Shulk on his quest. Ricky suggests that the Telethia probably went somewhere with a high concentration of ether to recover from the battle with Melia, so they follow him to an area he knows of ripe with ether crystals. And it's here that they find that the Telethia has sucked almost all of the ether out of the surrounding environment in order to heal. Sure enough, the beast swoops in to attack when they enter, and during the battle, it seems like they aren't doing much to damage it. Even when they sever its body parts, the Telethia is able to quickly regenerate them. Melia is ready to accept that they will not win the battle, but Shulk encourages her. After all that he's been through, he refuses to let another person experience the pain that he has, the loss of loved ones, and the feelings of rage that the desire for revenge causes. The party regroups for another attack, and this time, Melia is able to use her special ability, Mind Blast, to overload the Telethia with an incredible amount of ether, causing it to implode. The defeat of the Telethia brings Melia immense peace, knowing that she avenged her fallen comrades. After the encounter with the Telethia, Melia begins developing feelings for Shulk. His determination to never give up, as well as his kindness and understanding, begins to have an effect on her. When the group arrives back at Frontier Village, its citizens shower Ricky with praise, despite him doing literally nothing to help in the fight, much to Ryan's chagrin. Chief Dunga yet again forces Ricky to travel with Shulk, since, while Ricky was gone, his children's appetite racked up even more debt in the village. After a bit of urging from his wife Okka, Ricky agrees to permanently accompany the party. In line with her and Dunga's promise, Melia takes them to the head of the Bionis. But not just that, she agrees to take them to Prison Island and be their guide through Aerith Sea. Melia shows everyone around the magnificent islands hovering above the sea, until they finally reach Alchemoth. She explains that she needs to speak with the Emperor and convince them to allow the group entry to Prison Island. Some guards take Melia through the entrance, and she asks that her new friends be taken care of. Still unsure of what Melia's status is in Alchemoth, Shulk chooses to trust her. At this point, everyone save for Ricky still don't realize that she's the princess or even High Entia, though Dunban and Shulk are starting to catch on. As soon as she leaves, everyone is arrested against Melia's wishes. Melia walks through the streets of Alchemoth and eventually inside of the palace. When she enters the throne room, her father is waiting for her, alongside Melia's older half-brother, Kallian. Kallian is the son of Umea, Saurian's High Entia consort. The Emperor praises Melia for defeating the Telethia, and even though this is a great triumph for her, she feels guilt for the death of her 4 guards. Because of her victory, Saurian has decided to make Melia the successor to the throne. She always assumed that it would be Kallian. It's also revealed to her that Shulk and his companions have been arrested. One of the reasons being that the High Entia are somewhat aware of the Monado's divine origins.
If that weapon is truly the Monado, we shall be forced to take action.
Why?
There is a legend, passed down through the generations, of a divine weapon, the Monado. It is said that the Bionis itself bestows the blade upon a chosen one. However, if the chosen one is black of heart, he will cause the destruction of the High Entia.
They know that their ancestors sealed the sword for good reason. In addition, almost a month prior, at about the time Egil began his assault on Colonies 9 and 6, Alvis showed Saurian a vision of what will happen on Prison Island, and he is understandably nervous. After the meeting has adjourned, Lorithia exchanges some words with Melia, urging her to assist Shulk. As a member of Zanza's Trinity, she wants to make sure that his vessel is able to fully mature. Saurian sends Alvis to meet with Shulk and ascertain his motives. After both sides exchange information, Alvis decides that the group poses no threat and releases them. Shulk tries to ask questions about the Monado, but Alvis, as usual, avoids answering, and he reports back to Saurian that Shulk is not to be feared. The royal family discuss recent events and decide that Melia's candidacy for the throne should be announced. Umea suggests that Melia face the challenge of the High Entia tomb, which is a rarely practiced and highly dangerous ritual that will give her the blessing of not only the citizens of Alchemoth, but the High Entian forefathers. At this announcement, and others like it, Melia wears a mask because of her half-Hom's heritage, symbolic of the shame she carries at her diluted blood. Shortly after the ceremony, Melia departs into the tomb, and Umea secretly sends a group of assassins from the Bionite Order to dispatch Shulk and the others. Kallian manages to listen in on the very end of this conversation, unsure of what his mother is talking about. Shulk and his allies swiftly defeat the assassins, and Shulk has a vision of Melia being attacked during her trial. Kallian attempts to forbid the party from entering due to High Entia law, but after exploiting a legal loophole which would technically allow Hom's entry into the tomb, they arrive without incident, accompanied by Alvis. Melia easily makes her way through the challenges and enters the final room of the High Entia tomb.
Is this?
It is you who will rule the High Entia, and likely be their last.
Revered ancestor,
Go forth and rule, my descendant.
Melia is then confronted by Tyrea, a high-ranking member of the Bionite Order, instructed by Umea to assassinate Melia. Tyrea is actually Umea's secret daughter, conceived in a private ritual sanctioned within the Order to further maintain a pure bloodline. Unbeknownst to Umea, her partner in this ceremony was not of pure High Entia heritage. Despite her disdain for half-Hom's members of their race, Umea raised her anyway, believing that she could be a useful tool. Unfortunately, Rhine activates a trap in the tomb because he's a bit of a dumbass. This sets the group back a decent amount. having to take an alternate, longer route to reach the chamber at the end. They're able to arrive in time. They assist Melia in the fight against Tyrea and a Telethia that was let into the tomb by Lorithia. After the Telethia takes enough damage, Tyrea orders it to explode in a last-ditch effort, but Alvis deflects the blast back at her with his powers. This somehow does not kill her, and she's able to escape in the ensuing chaos.
Almost bought it. Alvis, thank you.
My pleasure, Shulk.
Why did you come?
The Monado gave me a warning that you were in danger. I'm just glad we made it.
Hey, Shulk. Whoever that was is gone.
So, they escaped.
Shulk. Everyone. I thank you. You saved me.
Ricky, Smiley, Smiley! Nearly all safe! All thanks to Hero Pawn! Oh.
That's not how I remember it, Cheeseball.
Back in Alchemoth, the royal family reels at the news that the Bionite Order has still been operating after all this time, and based on Callian's testimony, they have Yumea arrested. Regardless of the drama surrounding the events in the tomb, the Emperor still believes Melia to be a fit ruler, and confirms her worthiness. He then calls for Shulk to meet with him privately, and they discuss his request to enter Prison Island. Saurian tells him that he fears the events shown to him will lead to the awakening of the Bionis, and the extinction of all life living on it. His fears are not unfounded either. Up to this point, everything has gone according to Zanza's plan. The Emperor needs time to consider the request, but asks Shulk for a favor. Not as a ruler, but a father. He asks him to be a friend to Melia, a shoulder to lean on, her protector, and he accepts. Melia is then officially announced to be next in line for the throne. Meanwhile, on Mechonis, Vinea is putting the finishing touches on a new faced Mechon, Face Nemesis. This one is special though. Inside of it, completely unaware to Egil, she has installed the soul of Lady Maineth, who had previously been slumbering after the battle with Zanza. Maineth and Vinea hope that this will allow them to defeat Zanza with minimal bloodshed. Egil, now piloting Yaldabaoth, the strongest Mechon ever built, calls for Vinea and commences his plan to strike at Bionis once again. He sends a horde of faced Mechon to Aerith Sea to destroy Zanza's body before Shulk is able to have the Monado's true power unlocked by him. Among these face Mechon are Metalface and Face Nemesis. While the party visits Melia in the garden of her late mother, Alchemoth's sirens begin blaring. Egil's fleet has arrived. Even worse, Metalface is making quick work of Alchemoth's defenses. Saurian decides to go to Prison Island and release what has been sealed there. He doesn't know exactly what will happen, but he does know that the Monado will become stronger and that he will most likely die. He takes the Imperial staff to Prison Island, and Zanza is awakened. Using the staff, he channels Zanza's power through the island, surrounding it with a shield of energy to repel Mechon attacks. Shulk, Melia, and the others follow the Emperor to Prison Island upon hearing of his departure. When they arrive, they are greeted by Zanza, who has been waiting for this moment for millennia. He lies to them, explaining that the High Entia imprisoned him because they feared his potential power, since he was the one who created the Monado, and used it against the Mechonis. While this is technically true, he fails to mention the tragedy he's caused in the events that he set in motion, that he attacked the Mechonis unprovoked, not to mention that he is the Bionis, a god of this world. In exchange for freeing him from his chains, he offers to unshackle the Monado, to unlock its true power, the power to hurt all life forms from Bionis. This weakness is the same one that Egil has been exploiting with his faced units. Indeed, within faced Mechon are HOMs. They've been surgically transformed to act as the central nervous system of these machines. Their immune systems are configured for compatibility with their face units. This allows HOM's blood to flow through a Mechon, making them unable to be damaged by the Monado. After a while, though, the faces must return to Mechonis to fill up on HOM's blood. This is the reason why Mechon eat people and kidnap them. Early models like Zord only had their brains and some of their nervous system attached to the Mechon, but through multiple trials, Egil determined that this made them too unstable. For later models like Metal and Nemesis, HOM's pilots are used, though many of their body parts, organs, and much of their skin have been removed. This process results in the pilots only needing water to function, but heavily decreases their lifespans and quality of life outside their face units. Yaldabaoth, though not piloted by a HOMS, has many HOMS organs implanted inside of it in order to protect against the Monado. Shulk obviously knows none of this, but still hesitates. Eventually, though, he decides to help Zenza. He wants the power to destroy all Mechon, whatever that entails. Almost immediately upon his release, Arglus's body is killed by Metalface using a new ether spear developed by Egil. This spear is filled with raw ether siphoned from the Bionis through the Mechonis sword. Meyneth attempts to contact Zanza, who is still able to telepathically communicate, and begs him to stop his plan. Zanza refuses and insults her. He will not falter. He has been waiting so long for this moment, and he isn't simply going to be talked out of it. Shulk uses this distraction to attack Nemesis Face, and during the ensuing fight, Metal Face is stunned by Saurian. However, the Emperor quickly pushes Melia out of the way and shields her from a retaliatory strike.
Looks like he's had his wings clipped. Did you really expect to beat me?
Emperor, I failed you.
Heir to the Monado.
Huh? Zanza, you're alive. Give me the power I need.
I am now a mere shell. The power is already yours.
What?
The shackles have been broken. Wield the sword, it bends to your will. Think of your enemy, and the power to defeat them is yours.
Zanza. Mechon. It's not over. The people of Bionis will never let you triumph.
It's changing form!
Be careful! We cannot withstand such power!
Shulk's vision has played out exactly like he saw it. Zanza was released, the Emperor was killed, the Monado's true power unlocked. He now wields the Monado II, which displays the kanji for man. This signifies that faced Mechon are no match for him now. After striking at the armor of Nemesis, much to everyone's shock, they find that within the Mechon is Fiora, the entire reason that they begun this quest. With their mission complete, Meyneth and Metalface then retreat to Mechonis.
Fiora! It's me, Shulk! Fiora!
As Saurian dies in Melia's arms, he lets her know that he loves her, something she never previously believed. With his dying breaths, he explains that she is the hope of the Hyentia, not just because she is half Homs, but because he believes in her ability to become that hope. He entrusts the Monado and the future of the world to Shulk and passes. Shulk asks Melia to join him on his quest, and she agrees, vowing to make the Mechon pay for killing her father. Alchemoth's leadership scurries to shore up its defenses after the Mechon attack, and the party returns to their room in the capital. Dunban, however, keeps his distance from everyone. In the same state of shock, Shulk goes to see him, and they talk about Fiora, how it's a relief that she's alive, but it's unsettling how she doesn't seem to remember any of them. Dunban tells him how he raised her after their father died. They both spent years of their lives together. There's no way that all of those memories are gone. So, he asks that Shulk alter their goal. Help him get Fiora back. Callian calls for Shulk and his friends in the throne room. He apologizes for the Hyentia's general lack of care for the Mechon assaults on the lower regions of the Bionis. He admits that they only thought of themselves, not even helping during the Battle of Sword Valley. Previously, Dunban had even criticized Callian for this, and now he understands. After he's seen firsthand the devastation that the Mechon have wrought, he can no longer sit idly by. Callian intends to form a joint task force between the Homs, Nupon, and Hyentia in order to face the Mechon threat together. He asks for Shulk and his friends to be ambassadors of this force, but Shulk declines. As much as he would like to assist in this endeavor, now his first and foremost priority is getting Fiora back. Callian arranges for a fake Melia that wears her mask to cover for her royal duties while she's gone, and he will act as temporary ruler of the Hyentia. Callian also provides intelligence that the faced Mechon who attacked Alchemoth returned to Galahad Fortress. So the party sets out on a ship to be taken to the entrance of Valak Mountain, which leads to the Mechonis sword. Alvis accompanies them, acting as a guide to ensure their safe passage through the treacherous and frozen terrain. As they journey down the arm of the Bionis, they come across Osse Tower, the previous resting place of the Monado, and set up camp for the night. Alvis tells many lies during their stay, and notably that he comes from a long line of seers. What is not a lie, though, is what he tells Shulk about the mechanism that allows him to see the future. Ether makes up everything in this world, and where, how much there is, and when it will all be there, can all be predicted. The Monado facilitates the visualization of those predictions. The next day, they make their way to the Great Glacier at the bottom of the Bionis Arm. As they walk, they're intercepted by Maynith, who wants to speak with Shulk. But before she can, Metalface attacks her, knocking her unconscious. He followed her here because he figured that Fiora, of all people, would lead him right to Dunban and the Monado. He threatens to kill Fiora if Shulk doesn't hand over the Monado and surrender. And Shulk does it without question. Above all else, he must save Fiora. Before their very eyes, the pilot of Metalface finally makes himself known. He drops from the Mechon into the snowy ground below. The man who caused all this pain and suffering was Mumkar, Dunban's old comrade in arms. He did not die that day in Sword Valley. Dunban, in disbelief, stares at his old friend standing before him. Mumkar takes the sword in his hand, gleefully taunting Shulk and Dunban. Off to the side, Melia shoots him with a blast of ether, temporarily disabling the controls of his face unit and knocking the Monado to the ground. Shulk picks it back up, and the group prepares for battle. Dunban takes point in the fight and brings Mumkar to his knees. He wants to make him pay for all that he has done to Fiora and the others in Colony 9. He ended countless lives and ravaged their homes over some petty grudge. Before the fight can finish, though, Egil arrives with several faced Mechon in tow to break it up.
Leader of Mechonis! So you're the one who controls the Mechon?
I am he. We fight to free the world from the tyranny of the Bionis.
Egil takes Fiora's unconscious body back to Galahad Fortress, and Mumkar follows. More determined than ever, Shulk and his allies chase after Egil and arrive at Sword Valley. After a quick rendezvous with Dixon, Alvis leaves with him, and the party pushes onward. They fight through the defenses surrounding the fortress until they reach the entrance and are yet again stopped by Mumkar. Faced Mechon have now had all their weapons imbued with ether siphoned from the Bionis, which makes them even deadlier. One wrong move, and they're done for. After gaining the upper hand, Dunban attempts to kill Mumkar by stabbing into the Faced Mechon's cockpit, but Shulk stops him before he pierces Mumkar's neck. He reminds him that even though he's a madman and a killer, if they kill Mumkar, then they're no better than him. He previously wanted every single Mechon destroyed, but now that he knows Homs are inside, he's unsure of himself. He pleads with Dunban to help him find out why this is happening. And despite all of his anger and bloodlust, Dunban relents and sheathes his blade. As the two go to leave, Mumkar tries one final attack to kill Dunban, but ends up getting skewered by a part of the fortress damaged in the fight. He finally drops to his death onto the fallen arm below the sword. As the group navigates through Galahad Fortress, Shulk has a vision of Nemesis falling off of the Mechonis. Confident that Fiora is inside and in danger, they make their way deeper into the building. Upon reaching one of the lower levels in the fortress, they become pinned between a group of powerful Mechon and face Nemesis, which is being forced to attack Shulk and the others without proper input from Meyneth. Still unsure why Fiora does not recognize them, they beg her to snap out of it, to no avail. During the conflict, a walkway that they're all standing on is destroyed, and the party falls to the basement level, where Egil is waiting. He activates Apocrypha, a special ability he has incorporated into Yaldabaoth. Egil has built a generator on Mechonis that transmits special ether waves into his face unit, and when unleashed, these waves completely counteract the Monados, rendering it useless. He demands that Shulk hand over the Monado and submit to him. If the Monado truly lacked any power within it, then what reason would Egil have for still wanting it? Egil and Nemesis attack the 6 heroes. Before Egil can finish them off, Fiora, still dwelling within the body that she and Meyneth share, pleads to her to protect Shulk, and through their combined wills, they manage to break free of Egil's control and strike at him. Meyneth is also able to use her power to counteract Apocrypha and reactivate the Monado. In a last-ditch effort to protect Fiora's friends, Meyneth rams her face Mechon into Yaldabaoth, unleashing a huge amount of energy, causing explosions all throughout Galahad Fortress. Egil manages to slip away unscathed, bewildered at how a face was able to disobey him and use power like that. As the fortress crumbles, Shulk hobbles over to the deactivated face Nemesis to try and rescue Fiora. The floor beneath gives way, and the Mechon falls towards the endless ocean. In a moment of sheer panic, the others watch Shulk jump off to save Fiora, plummeting into the unknown, before they themselves follow the same fate. Meanwhile in Alchemoth, Callian receives intelligence that Galahad Fortress has been destroyed, and is urged by Dixon to use this to attack the Mechonis while they still can. Callian agrees and begins mobilizing the troops of the allied force of Bionis. While the troops assemble, Dixon makes his way to the Fallen Arm to see Shulk. He wants to ensure that Shulk intends to kill Egil in order to fulfill Zanza's plan. Before he leaves, Callian asks him to relay a message. When the allied force attacks Mechonis, take advantage of the chaos and do what needs to be done. Egil arrives back on Mechonis, furious that a face was able to break away from his influence. He is supposed to have total control over his creations, after all. He suspects that Meyneth could be sleeping within Fiora, but refuses to believe that his god would choose a fate as lowly as using a Homs as a host. He decides that the reason for the malfunction is the presence of memories in the Homs operating Faced Mechon. He deems both Metal Face and Face Nemesis as failures, and moves to create a new unit, completely devoid of personality other than obedience to him. He selects a Homs which has strong memories of Sharla, and decides that he will be a worthy test subject. He begins deleting all remnants of her from the man's mind, and thus, Jade Face is born. Shulk and his friends were able to land safely, albeit scattered, on the fallen Mechonis arm with the help of Meyneth. Shulk wakes up on a beach beside the wreckage of Face Nemesis and finds an unconscious Fiora inside. After transferring water from his mouth to hers in a bid to nurse her back to health, Fiora wakes up, excited that Shulk has finally kissed her, and he realizes that she's back. The two embrace and begin looking for Shulk's companions. As they search, Fiora explains that the person who was controlling her body is likely sleeping, in a similar way to how her consciousness was stuck before. Eventually, the two are ambushed by a group of Mechon. Fiora is still recovering from the battle in Galahad Fortress, so Shulk activates the Monado, determined to protect her. He also notices that the sword is still being affected by Apocrypha, and remembers how Alvis once told him that the Monado bends to his desires. Through his own willpower, the Monado returns to working order. Ryan and Sharla awake in a different area, and while they look for their friends, Ryan laments how he feels useless now. He'd always felt that it was his job to protect Shulk, but ever since he picked up the Monado, it's been the other way around. After a short conversation with Sharla, he realizes that he doesn't have to protect Shulk anymore. He just needs to support him as best he can. Eventually, they come upon Shulk battling the Mechon and help him finish them off. After their reunion, the group encounters villagers from the Fallen Arms' hidden Machina village. As this is happening, Ricky, Melia, and Dunban decide to rest after a long day of walking. Whilst Melia sleeps, Ricky and Dunban talk about what it means to be a father to someone, after Dunban opens up about how he cared for Fiora throughout their lives. The stoic and inscrutable Dunban is surprised to gain some wisdom from his Nupon comrade. Ricky suggests that while he may want to constantly be there for Fiora and Shulk, at this point, all that he can really do is watch over them. They're able-bodied adults who can make their own choices, and if they fail, that's okay. He'll be there to help them back up and watch them try again. The next morning, the three arrive at the hidden Machina village themselves and reunite with Shulk, Fiora, and the others. They meet Lenata, a Machina doctor, and with the help of Sharla, she offers to take a look at Fiora's body, which has been malfunctioning ever since the fall. While Fiora consults with Lenata, her friends are asked to speak with Mikkel, who is now the village chief. His request, although simple, is a great one. He asks that they kill his son, Egil. Mikkel, having witnessed what led up to Egil's decision to destroy Bionis, gives an abridged version of events. He covers the broad strokes, like how the Bionis attacked the Mechonis unprovoked, and how Lady Meyneth defended them, but does not include details like Zanza being the soul of the Bionis, or that he had taken over Arglis. Mikkel gives Shulk some time to absorb all this new information, and think about his request regarding Egil. The situation isn't as cut and dry as he once thought. Shulk now realizes how much pain Egil has been through in his life, and even begins to sympathize with him, despite all the horrible things he's done. He knows how it feels to have his home devastated without reason. Egil is out for revenge, just like he once was. Lenata's analysis on Fiora concludes that she's lucky to even be alive in this state. Until she gets a specific part, called a piezoelectric unit, installed in her body, she will be unable to function safely outside of a faced Mechon. Truthfully, Fiora doesn't care what happens to her, just as long as she's able to fight alongside Shulk. They scrounge around a beach at the base of Digit 5 and are luckily able to find the part for Fiora. Though this maintenance will help her, it's only a temporary measure. She could still experience physiological problems at any moment. Though it's extremely unlikely, Lenata begins searching for a way to restore her Hom's body. Lenata may be a Machina doctor, but she specializes in treatment for Homs turned into face Mechon. Shulk returns to Mikkel and agrees to stop Egil. And it's at this moment that Dixon arrives in the village. The group is surprised to see him here, but Dunban is furious that Dixon knew of the Machina and never told anyone. Dixon explains that it was to protect the Machina. If word got out that there was a race originating from the Mechonis similar to Mechon, who knows what the people on Bionis would do to them. But since Dixon is actively working against the interests of the Machina, the truth is likely much murkier than that. He relays Callion's message and assures them that he'll assist the Allied force as they handle Egil. Before they leave, Mikkel advises that they look for his daughter, Vinea, while on Mechonis. She's been subtly working against Egil this entire time, and she would surely help Shulk on his journey. The 7 heroes make their way across the bridge leading to the foot of the Mechonis. They reflect on how being present for the fight between the Mechonis and Bionis must have felt for the Machina, the fear that must have coursed through their bodies, the terror that their home was being destroyed for no clear reason. It's a feeling that's all too familiar for them. As they journey through the Mechonis, days turn into nights, and they climb higher and higher into the Titan. As they do so, they're unaware that, through the scope of his ether cannon, Jadeface is watching them. On one of these days, they rest for a bit in a secure area, and they take the opportunity to do some weapon maintenance. Dunban decides to check on Fiora and make sure she's okay. She's not really used to this new body, and expresses how strange it feels. She asks that Dunban doesn't tell Shulk, since she doesn't want him to worry. He assures her that he won't, and reminds her of how, after he was injured, she waited on him hand and foot. It's not a problem at all for him to return the favor now. While Charlotte is struggling to take apart Gatto's rifle and adjust the scope, Shulk offers to build her a new one. Rhine laughs, and in a moment of maturity, reminds Shulk that it's more than just a weapon to her. It's a piece of Gatto. This makes her think back to a disagreement that she once had with him. Gatto was convinced that defeating the Mechon was something worth dying for. She did not share this sentiment. She asks Rhine the same question. Would you give up your life to stop them? And he tells her, of course not. He'll beat the Mechon and live to tell the tale. They all will. And she's delighted to hear that he thinks this way. In many ways, Rhine reminds her of Gatto, and in others, he does not. Right before they enter the central factory, located in the chest of the Mechonis, Jadeface makes his move. The group has stopped for a moment, while Fiora is catching her breath. For the first time ever, without a vision, Shulk senses an attack from a Mechon, and yells for everyone to get down. Jadeface approaches Shulk and the others, but they hesitate to destroy him, knowing that an innocent Homs is inside. Eventually, after hearing his voice, Charla rushes towards him during a lull in the fighting. She knows who is inside this Mechon. Sure enough, Gatto, Charla's fiancé, emerges from the cockpit. She tries to help him remember who he is, but it's no use. Egil has complete and total control over him. Through Gatto, he states that his duty is to destroy the Monado and restore order to the world. Jadeface then fires an enormous ether blast at everyone and retreats. During the explosion, time slows to a halt, and Shulk is contacted by Alvis, who has brought his consciousness to memory space, an area that he constructed separate from the world of Bionis and Mechonis. He tells him that he must find his Monado if he wishes to truly change the passage of fate. Thankfully, Lady Maineth has used her power to save Fiora and her friends again. As they pick themselves up, baffled by what has happened, Vinea appears and introduces herself to them. While she is willing to reveal some information, like how Lady Meyneth was the one who saved them, and how Zanza was the one who devastated Mechonis all those years ago, she requests that they accompany her to Egniritha, where she'll be able to show them everything she knows. As Vinea escorts Shulk and company through the central factory, Callian, commanding the allied force of Bionis, arrives at Sword Valley. With a fleet of new aerial combat modules known as Havras, they commence their attack. The Havras were designed as anti-Mechon weapons by Lorithia and the Ministry of Research. Now, finally working together, the Homs, Hyentia, and Napan have gained a wide swath of ground against the Mechon and head straight for what remains of Galahad Fortress. Alvis, confused at the odd formation of the Mechon, has an unpleasant feeling. He tells Callian that he believes the Mechonis is likely going to awaken, and that he must leave to help Shulk and the others. Callian, not willing to give up the fight, allows Alvis to exit the front lines and continue to push forward. Upon arriving in Egniritha, Shulk and his friends are taken aback by the destruction found across the city. The corpses of Telethia litter the dilapidated buildings and demolished streets from the battle that took place thousands of years ago. They approach the data center in the middle of the city and head inside. At the top of the tower, Meyneth awakens within Fiora yet again, and the truth of their situation is revealed. How the peaceful Machina were attacked, entirely unprovoked, by Zanza. How Meyneth used almost all of her life force to fight against him. How after Zanza was imprisoned, she fell into a deep slumber, awaiting his inevitable reawakening. And how she was placed within Fiora's body by Vinea. When Vinea is asked why her, why Fiora, she simply answers that Fiora was close to Shulk, the heir to the Monado. If Meyneth and Shulk could work together, with the power of both Monados, they could potentially defeat Zanza. Unfortunately, the side effect of this is that Fiora's consciousness had been pushed deep down, and Meyneth recognized none of Fiora's friends. After learning all of this, Shulk is worried that he'll repeat the same actions that Zanza did, that the power of the Monado will be used to harm people yet again. He's reassured by his friends that, unlike Zanza, he has used his power for the greater good. Shulk protects, while Zanza destroys. Meyneth, Vinea, and everyone else believes in the light within Shulk's heart. Vinea leaves them to ask Ego one final time if he will stop his assault on Bionis. If he refuses, she accepts that Shulk must do what he needs to in order to protect his people. After some deliberation, Shulk decides to follow Vinea, and they head to the Meyneth Shrine, which should teleport them to Egel's location. As they approach, Shulk senses yet another attack without any accompanying vision. Gaddo, piloting Jadeface, has appeared once again to destroy Shulk. They do battle, and Sharla pleads with him over and over to stop, but Gaddo angrily claims that he has no idea who she is. He attacks once again, but consistently misses Sharla, almost purposefully. It's clear that he is hesitating to hurt her. With this realization, Fiora and Meyneth both decide to work together to save him. When the others give them an opening, the two activate Final Cross, landing a devastating blow to the circuits of the face Mechon, which finally releases Gaddo from Egel's control. Gaddo falls from the cockpit and apologizes to Sharla for everything he's done. He begs her and her friends to go on ahead and stop Egel, stop him from turning anyone else into a face, and from completing his quest for revenge. Before they go through the teleporter, Reyn gives Gaddo some water to drink, and tells him that after they're finished, they'll have Lunata take a look at him. He thanks Reyn, and asks him to take care of Sharla for him. The party arrives just as Egel refuses Vinea's request, and they lay eyes upon the man himself, the man whose decisions have impacted every one of their lives. Shulk attempts to appeal to Egel's humanity, comparing the suffering that the people of Bionis have faced to the people of Mechonis. And while Egel does see his point of view, he makes it clear that he's not killing the people of Bionis because he resents or hates them. He's doing it because he needs to remove as much ether from the Bionis as possible, so that when it does reawaken, it will have less energy to call upon. Shulk is shocked at this revelation, but still chooses to oppose him. Egil challenges the group, and during their battle, Shulk is able to stab the Monado into his shoulder. Surprised that Shulk is able to wield power like this, even while Apocrypha is in effect, and that Vinaya has betrayed him, Egil grabs Shulk by the face.
There will never be peace until the Bionis is destroyed.
Brother!
Your blade. It did not cut deep enough.
The Golden Mechon!
Permit me to apologize for calling you bugs just now. You proved to be a worthy adversary after all. Shulk.
Now piloting Yaldabaoth, Egil makes quick work of Shulk and his companions. As he raises his arm to unleash his final attack, he's approached by Fiora and Maineth. It's at this moment that Egil realizes that Maineth's host body is Fiora's, and labels her a traitor to her people, believing her to be siding with Zanza if she is opposing him. He brings down his fist upon them, which is thankfully blocked by Maineth. Egil emerges from the battlefield victorious and enters the core of the Mechonis, where he fuses his face unit with the interior of the Mechonis itself. He offers his own body and soul to the Titan in order to reawaken it manually and strike down the Bionis. Exhausted from their battle, Shulk and his friends realize that Egil is wielding power at an unimaginable scale. He is using all of the ether that he has drained from the Bionis to forcibly activate the Mechonis. This is causing Agniratha to collapse and self-destruct. They book it to leave the city and get as far away from this place as possible. As they exit the Maineth Shrine, Sharla stops to look for Gato, who, along with Jadeface, is nowhere to be seen. After all this time, she finally found him alive. The last thing that she wants to do is lose him again. She refuses to leave without him, but Ryan slaps her across the face and reminds her that there are other people who need their help. This convinces her to follow him, and as Agniratha explodes behind them, Jadeface appears, blocking the energy discharge from reaching them. With Gato's dying breath, he tells Sharla to live, and is enveloped in the light of the explosion. With his supply of ether, Egil fires a blast at the Bionis. Callian sees this and realizes that Alvis's theory has come to pass. The Mechonis is reawakening. He immediately orders all troops to pull back to Valak Mountain at once. Dixon hears this and flies his hovers towards the Mechonis, angered that Shulk still hasn't killed Egil. Shulk and the others are now hovering far above the endless ocean. Maineth has once again protected them. The 8 heroes watch in horror as Egil pulls the sword of the Mechonis out from the Bionis waste, where it has rested undisturbed for tens of thousands of years. This sends everything and everyone remaining in Sword Valley tumbling into the sea below. Hundreds of Homs, Mechon, Nopon, and High Entia alike plummet to their deaths. Fiora and Maineth are unable to hold them in the air much longer, and the group begins to fall as well. Thankfully, they're saved by Alvis, who enlisted Mikol and Lenata to fly their ship, the Junks, towards the Mechonis. Dixon leaps out of his hovers and directly onto Rhine, sarcastically greeting his surrogate son. While discussing what their next steps are, Dixon and Alvis realize that Fiora has become the vessel of Maineth. Vinaya advises that the quickest way to reach the Mechonis core is to fly through a cooling duct on the back of the Titan, and they depart immediately. On the way, Vinaya takes the opportunity to apologize to Fiora for placing such a large burden on her. After all, she was the one who attached Maineth's soul to Fiora's body and transformed her into a face unit. Though Fiora does feel very strange about the ordeal, she is happy with the arrangement for the most part. Her new body allows her to be alongside Shulk, Dunban, and Rhine once again, and she's made wonderful new friends in Sharla, Melia, and Ricky. Vinaya is relieved at this response and tells Fiora that she believes Lady Meyneth is glad to have met her. As the Junks approaches the Mechonis, Egil's remaining forces fire upon the ship, but they manage to avoid most everything. Once they navigate inside the Mechonis as planned, they dock near the Mechonis core. Vinaya also points out that the Apocrypha generator is along the way, so they should attempt to destroy it and restore the Monado's full power. Before they leave, Shulk expresses his worry that using the Monado against Egil could be a mistake. He's afraid of wielding the same power that Zanza once did during the Battle of Bionis and Mechonis. Not to mention, his ability to see the future has been changing as well. He's more often been able to feel that something will happen instead. In actuality, this is the power that Zanza has granted Shulk. In order for his vessel to mature, it needs to exist outside the passage of fate. What Zanza had not counted on was Shulk developing his own will, strong and entirely separate from his own. Shulk is beginning to have his very own visions without input from Zanza. Zanza fears this. Dixon and Alvis decide to accompany the group to the core. Dixon is looking to make sure that Zanza's future comes to pass. Alvis intends to take a much more passive role, choosing instead to watch and see how everything plays out. He is unable to see past this point in time. Even though everything has happened as Zanza has planned, Shulk's will to choose his own path forward is making the future uncertain for the first time in the history of this world. As they depart the ship, Shulk shockingly begins to feel negative side effects from holding the Monado. Just like how Dunban experienced, the Monado sends electricity coursing through Shulk's body. He drops the sword and writhes in pain as his friends watch, helpless to stop it. Melia theorizes that maybe Shulk has become too exhausted from fighting the effects of Apocrypha. Eventually, the pain subsides, and Shulk explains that this is not the power of Apocrypha, but something entirely different. What likely has happened is that Zanza, whose awakening is nigh, is unhappy with Shulk's hesitation to kill Egil with the Monado, and is punishing him for this. The group presses onward, but Shulk still feels uneasy. Zanza is stirring within him, awaiting his opportunity to strike. Fiora takes a moment to remind Shulk that she and everyone else is here for him. They hold hands and walk together as Melia watches in disappointment. Her feelings for Shulk have steadily grown as their adventure continued. Melia certainly felt uncomfortable when Fiora joined them, but now she's devastated that Shulk has seemingly picked her instead. As the group arrives at the Apocrypha generator, Egil begins striking at the Bionis. His blade makes contact with Valak Mountain, killing every Allied Force soldier still in the vicinity. They must hurry. They destroy the generator, and with the Monado being returned to its full power, this allows for Shulk to unlock his final Monado art, Monado Cyclone, a devastating attack that deals damage in a huge area around Shulk. Upon entering the core, Egil demonstrates his power by striking at the Bionis once again, as Shulk and the others watch. Vinaya tries to convince Egil that Meyneth does not want this for the world, but he dismisses her entirely. In his opinion, Meyneth is nothing but a traitor, lurking within a Homs girl. He makes it clear that he believes the world no longer has a need for gods. During their fight, Shulk has a vision of Egil striking the Bionis with his most powerful attack yet, Bionis/10, which will slice completely through the entire Titan, destroying it in a single blow. He's able to stop this vision with his pure mastery of the Monado. Every single attack that is thrown Shulk's way is either dodged or deflected. With a swing of his sword, he slices off the head of Yaldabaoth, exposing Egil in its cockpit. As Shulk raises the sword once more, Zanza screams inside his head over and over to kill him, to strike him down, and Shulk wants to, more than anything. He's been hearing this mysterious voice inside him for his entire journey to kill them all, and now he can do it. He can end it right here. He can finally take his revenge on Egil for all that he has done. What he did to Fiora, the Emperor, and every single person on Bionis. Memories from throughout his quest flash through his head, giving him pause. And he soon realizes that this isn't what he wants after all, and at the last second, stops his swing. Shulk sheathes his Monado and sits down next to Egil. He states that he isn't going to kill him, but he'll stop him over and over until the two can understand each other. Shocked at Shulk's restraint, Egil tells him a tale from thousands of years ago. The story of how Zanza took control of his friend Arglus with the Monado and used him to attack Mechonis. He previously believed that all beings who used the Monado would share the same fate, that they were destined to become Zanza. But Egil has realized Shulk is different. Despite Zanza's influence on him, Shulk has strode towards the future with a positive outlook, believing that Bionis and Mechonis can one day live in harmony once again. The two decide to end their fighting and build a new world together.
I see. Yes, you're right.
No!
Dixon? You shouldn't have done that, little brat.
Dixon has mortally wounded Shulk. As blood pours from his chest, everyone else in the room cannot comprehend why Dixon would do such a thing. The man who raised Shulk from childhood has just shot him in the back for no reason at all. After looking at him closely, Egil realizes who Dixon is. He's one of Zanza's faithful disciples from all those years ago, in the flesh. Confused at how this is even possible, Dunban demands to know what Dixon truly is. Dixon refuses, saying that he doesn't have to explain a single thing. He then goes on to explain everything, starting with the declaration of Lord Zanza's return. Shulk's eyes roll into the back of his head, and he begins convulsing. Indeed, Zanza is finally returning after his long slumber. Egil attempts to stop the reawakening, but it's too late. His attack is effortlessly reflected by Zanza. In a blinding flash of light, Zanza exits Shulk's body and takes the Monado with him. He tells his children not to fret. All of these events were predestined by him lifetimes ago. This is when they start to put together the pieces. The revelation that Zanza was what killed everyone on the Monado expedition. Everyone, including Shulk, whose body he came to reside within. Not only that, but Dixon was the only other survivor on that trip, and he brought back Shulk along with the Monado to Colony 9. Zanza and Dixon even go as far to say that Shulk never actually existed, and that he only seemed alive purely because Zanza was living within him. Shulk wasn't particularly unique either. He didn't fulfill any special qualities or pass any test. The young boy just happened to be in the right place at the right time for Zanza. Every single thing that Shulk and his companions did was ushered along by Zanza in order to make it to this very moment. Before Zanza can enact the destruction and recreation of the world, he needs to take care of Meyneth. Now, at full power, Zanza reawakens the Bionis. Egil is furious at this. Everything he worked towards for thousands of years is about to be for nothing. He can't let it all go to waste. In a desperate attempt to stop Zanza, he begins striking at the Bionis, again and again. Zanza, unfazed by this, summons his Monado to the hands of the Bionis. Just like in the myths and legends, the Titans resume their battle from long ago. Previously, Egil attacked Bionis in the name of Mechonis, but now, with his eyes opened, he is attacking Bionis for the prosperity of all races in the world, not just Machina. Unfortunately, in his weakened state, Egil is simply no match for Zanza. His Monado slices cleanly through the Mechonis sword and into the head of the Mechonis, which mostly destroys Yaldabaoth. With no one to oppose him, the Bionis raises his Monado and strikes at the Mechonis. After witnessing firsthand the destruction that Zanza's arrogance has wrought for a second time, Meyneth decides that she must give her all to fight for the people of Bionis and Mechonis. She has come to the realization that the destiny a god has in store for their people removes any semblance of free will. Her time with Fiora and her friends has taught her the great things that people are capable of when they work together. That they have their own lives, desires, and futures.
Zanza, if you choose to deny the existence of every living being but yourself, then I choose to fight. To fight for them!
That's right. We won't let you erase everyone's futures!
They argue over the fate of the world and what it truly means to be a god. Zanza, only interested in what sheer power has to say, belittles her and pins her against the side of her Titan. He realizes that Meyneth's attachment to Shulk is an exploitable weakness, and fires an ether blast at his unconscious body. Meyneth dives in front of it and shields Shulk with their body, taking heavy damage. Zanza doesn't hesitate and attacks once again. This time, though, Meyneth exits Fiora's body and takes the hit herself to protect her friends. This last attack kills her. And as she dies, she shares Egil's sentiment that her friends should create a world with no need for gods. With Meyneth dead, Zanza takes her Monado, which makes him more powerful than he could have ever imagined. He teleports to Prison Island and begins the ceremony of destruction and recreation. This causes the island to sink through Aerith Sea and into the head of the Bionis. In the process, huge amounts of ether energy is scattered across the region. As a result, all of the pure-blooded Hyentia in Aerith Sea are now being forcibly transformed into Telethia. Dunban instructs Rhine to take Shulk's body, and they all sprint back to the junks before Mechonis completely falls apart. Egil chooses to stay in the core and use what little strength he has left to fight Zanza. It's just enough to protect the junks from the Bionis as it flies off of the Mechonis. Egil, in his final moments, releases all face Mechon from his control and punches directly into the chest of the Bionis, leaving a gaping hole. Enraged at Egil's persistence, Zanza swings at the Mechonis with one final blow. The entire Titan and everything on it is destroyed in a flash of light. While the party watches this, a group of Telethia commanded by Dixon surrounds the junks. Sharla and Dunban try to reason with him, but he's far more interested in enacting Zanza's will. They fight against his Telethia, but without Shulk, they're unable to do much of anything. Before Dixon can finish them off, Callian arrives with his Havriz squadron intending to protect Melia and her friends. None of this matters because Lorithia has activated the Havriz hidden protocol. They emit high concentrations of ether particles and transform every other Hyentia in the squadron, including Callian, into Telethia. Melia, who was previously unaware of the link between the two species, watches as all of her people turn into beasts. Despite becoming a Telethia, Callian is able to exercise a modicum of control over his body. He apologizes to Melia for the mistakes he's made in his life, and leaves the legacy of the Hyentia to her and Shulk as he rams into Dixon and Lorithia at full force. This gives the Junks time to fly away, in spite of Melia's cries. She rushes to the edge of the ship in desperation, refusing to let her brother die, but Rhine and Dunban pull her back. They land in Colony 6 and connect with the Tharon and Chief Dunga. They've moved many of the survivors from Aerith Sea and Sword Valley to the colony for protection. They discuss what the next steps are, whilst Lenata and Sharla work on tending to Shulk's wounds. Though it was uncertain at first, Shulk is somehow still alive and recovering. Mikkel has even crafted him a brand new replica Monado for his use when he wakes up, since Zanza has taken his back. As the group debates how to handle the incoming Telethia invasion, Alvis questions out loud if resisting Zanza's will is really worth the effort. He posits that if the god of this world has decided that they should all die, then what is the point of fighting him? Rhine and Dunban vehemently argue against that stance, and in the middle of the bickering, Fiora leaves for some fresh air, followed by Melia. Fiora confides in her that since Maineth's Monado has been removed from her body, she has a depleting and finite amount of energy left. At some point, her body will cease to function, and she will die. Melia is worried about this, but Fiora makes it clear that her well-being should not be a concern. As long as she is able to fight alongside Shulk, that's enough for her. She asks that Melia take care of Shulk if she does indeed die. Melia refuses, upset that Fiora would ask something like that of her. Regardless, the two are able to share a nice moment together. As they start heading back to the colony, Melia berates herself with her inner voice. Compared to Fiora's strength and resolve, she's nothing. She believes that this is the reason Shulk has chosen Fiora over her. Even though she's jealous of Fiora, Melia cannot bring herself to hate her, and still considers her a friend. Just then, the alarms in Colony 6 sound, and the two rush back as fast as they can. The Telethia are attacking. Commanded by Dixon, who survived Callian's attack, the Telethia hover above the colony and begin targeting the party, and Juju, who is also there for some reason. Even though they're sorely missing Shulk and the Monado, they are doing surprisingly well against the Telethia. Dixon, getting annoyed at their resilience, sends even more Telethia at them. Meanwhile, Shulk's unconscious mind has been brought to Alvis's memory space again. As he drifts through the dark, he sobs at the idea that nothing he did meant a thing. Every single action he took in his life, every person he met, and every relationship he cultivated was dictated by Zanza. He feels that it was all so pointless. At this moment, Alvis appears before him, and the two discuss the concept of destiny. Alvis points out to Shulk that against all odds, he's able to operate outside the margins of fate. This is why, despite wanting to use Shulk's body as a vessel originally, Zanza now seeks to destroy him. This realization gives Shulk all the motivation he needs. As he looks at Alvis, he finally realizes what he is. A being of limitless power, far greater than that of Zanza or Maineth. Alvis is the Monado itself, the administrator of this world. And as Alvis leaves him, Shulk wakes up in Junks, with newfound resolve, ready to take the future into his hands. Before Dixon can harm his friends, Shulk, armed with his Monado replica, appears and defeats one of the Telethia. Even though he lacks Zanza's Monado, Shulk still retains his foresight. The power granted to him by Zanza remains. Zanza's biggest threat is no longer Maineth, but the other god now residing in this world. The god that he himself created. Alongside his friends, Shulk destroys Dixon's Telethia. Dixon calls for Alvis to stop hiding and actually help out, and he obliges. Shulk's comrades are beside themselves with the surprise that Alvis was one of the Trinity, but Shulk knows the truth and reassures them. Alvis summons his own Telethia, the very same one that saved Shulk when they first left the Ether Mines, and commands it to attack. He wants to see for himself their will to survive. The Telethia is cleanly defeated, and Alvis, impressed at their show of strength, asks Shulk a question. Does this world belong to you, or to Zanza? Before Shulk can answer, Dixon and Alvis depart again on another Telethia and head for Prison Island. And as Colony 6 fades into the distance, Dixon experiences a new feeling. He shudders in fear. The sun sets on Bionis after the long day. Shulk and Fiora are standing outside together. The two of them agree that they will never give in to destiny. They will fulfill Meaneth's wish and make a world with no gods, no matter what it takes. Before confronting Zanza, Shulk and his friends decide to return to Aerith Sea to look for any remaining survivors, and sure enough, they find a young Hyentia boy named Teelan. He explains that his mother, a pure-blooded Hyentia, was transformed into a Telethia with the others. This has affected him greatly, and now he's committed to researching ways to reverse the transformation. To this end, he requests that Shulk look for the hidden Telethia laboratory in the Hyentia tomb, and retrieve a tome of Telethia research for him. They easily fulfill the request, and Teelan begins his own research into the link between the two species. As they return to Colony 6, they find Tyrea, the assassin sent by Umea weeks prior to kill Melia in the tomb. She lay injured at the gates. Even though they have a complicated history with her, they rush her to the junks where the group wonders why she hasn't transformed. Tyrea regains consciousness and begins berating Melia, telling her that she's far more worthy of being the next ruler of the Hyentia, since she is pure-blooded. Rhine, angered at this, defends Melia's right to the throne. He chalks her behavior up to simply being jealous, which infuriates Tyrea. Eventually, night falls, and Tyrea uses the cover of night to leave Colony 6 unseen. In a nearby area, a Telethia appears before her and begins attacking the colony. Melia and the others believe this Telethia to be Tyrea and chase after it. They track it to Machna Forest and defeat it in battle. But before Melia is able to destroy it, Tyrea reveals herself and stops her. She explains that this Telethia is actually Umea, Callion's mother, and Tyrea's mother as well. Tyrea had been tasked with destroying her as quickly as possible after her transformation. Melia stops her from killing Umea and says that as the hope of the Hyentia, it is actually her duty to carry out. Melia destroys Umea and tells Tyrea that she thinks that the two of them may be alike. Disgusted at the thought, Tyrea flies away with her wings, but not before thanking Melia. Melia then says that she believes Tyrea must be half Homs like her. Otherwise, Umea wouldn't have been able to ask her to kill her. Dunban says that since they share the same goal as her, that he's sure they'll cross paths again someday. The night before their final departure, they share a hearty meal together at Dunban's house. As the darkness sets in and the members of their group begin to fall asleep, Shulk sneaks out to his lab in the military district to work on some research. He's mainly trying to find a Hyentia machine that Lenata believes exists somewhere on Bionis. This machine would allow Fiora to regain her Hom's body by regrowing all of her organs based on her genetic data. After having another vision, he's able to discern its location, a locked chamber in Tephra Cave. The next day, he brings everyone to the device, but after Lenata says that it will take roughly 6 months for the process to complete, Fiora decides against it for now. She wants to fight by Shulk's side and defeat Zanza with him before entering the chamber. Using a recent vision, Shulk was able to determine that Zanza and his disciples are located inside the Bionis on Prison Island. With this information, our heroes commence the final leg of their journey. They fly the junks through the hole in the Bionis chest that Egil made with his final attack. They make their way through the pulsing organs and various fluids inside the Titan that have regained functions after thousands of years of dormancy. At the very end of their path, at the Bionis heart, waits Lorithia, who also survived Callion's attack. She calls for her own Telethia, which, in a cruel twist of fate, turns out to be the one that Callion turned into. As if to mock Melia, Lorithia kisses Callion's deceased body on the lips in front of her. She then fuses with him, and the abomination attacks Melia and the others. During the fight, Melia is able to contact what little of Callion's consciousness remained inside the Telethia. He tells her that she should not blame herself for what happened to him. This was his destiny. He leaves her with a reminder that she is the hope of the Hyentia, and that he and their father are so proud of her. He takes control of the Telethia from Lorithia and destroys it from within. As she dies, she screams in anger that she was supposed to be given immortality. No one else in the room heard what Callion said to Melia. Everyone, that is, except Ricky, who reassures her of what Callion said. She is the hope of the Hyentia. The two embrace for a moment before they're interrupted by Dixon, who has opened a portal for them to Prison Island. He believes that it's the most fitting spot to kill them and return them to the Bionis. They give chase and follow him through the Black Tower, now filled with all manner of ancient beasts that Dixon has unleashed on them. They finally reach the top and prepare to challenge him. As this is going on, the Telethia have returned to Colony 6 in greater numbers than before. The remaining members of the Allied force do their best to defend against them, but they're being overwhelmed. Just as things start looking grim, a faced Mechon swoops in to protect Juju and Atharon. Juju is surprised at this, but Atharon reminds him that all faces used to be Homs, and with Zanza wishing to exterminate every living being, they all have to be on the same side now. The party arrives before Dixon, and he's waiting for them, as smug as ever.
I've been working for Lord Zanza since the beginning. I raised you purely so he could live on.
I know. And I must thank you for granting me such power. It's all down to you that I'm standing here, ready for you now.
Enough talk, boy.
Dixon! If you're so determined to stop us, then we will kill you!
Dixon, now in his true giant form, attacks. He taunts all of them, Fiora in particular, after she vows that he will not get away with what he's done. He points out that it doesn't seem like Fiora has much life left in her, since Mayneth's Monado was taken. Shulk is devastated by this news, and Dixon quickly strikes at the two of them. He's stopped by a blast of ether from Melia, who encourages Fiora to give it all she's got if she wants to be with Shulk. She can't die fighting someone as pathetic as Dixon. Sharla sounds off as well. Firing a few rounds, she says that she needs to take what she wants and survive through it all. Rhine tanks a hit for Sharla, and, as blunt as always, tells Shulk directly that he can do this. Together, they can beat Dixon. Ricky runs to Shulk and says that he's seen his bravery firsthand. He was the one who taught him what bravery is. Shulk is a real hero pawn. Ricky's protected by Dunban, who reminds Shulk that pure strength is in everything. Strength from within, the strength to fight against adversity, comes from your heart. All of Shulk's companions are there, fighting alongside him and Fiora, doing everything they can do to change the future. Shulk rises to his feet, inspired by the words of his friends. and walks with Fiora towards Dixon, their raw wills emanating from their bodies in blue and red light. Dixon, shocked that they could wield power at that level, changes his focus and attempts to stop them. With their powers combined, Shulk and Fiora strike Dixon in the chest, mortally wounding him. After this attack, he turns back into his Hom's form and begins walking away. He has no interest in being Zanza's martyr. What he withholds from Shulk is that he doesn't want to give him the satisfaction of victory by letting him watch him die. Dixon sits down and lights one last cigar. He takes a final puff, and it drops from his mouth as he passes. Everyone begins walking towards the teleporter, leading to Zanza. Shulk, with his back turned to Dixon, begins sobbing uncontrollably. He's just killed the only father he's ever known. Zanza resides in Alvis's memory space, though he does not fully know the nature of this place. He's frustrated that he can't see any further into the future. Not only that, but both Dixon and Lorithia have been defeated. He doesn't understand why, but the reason is clear. Shulk's will to change the future is so strong that the passage of fate in this world is uncertain. Through his actions, Zanza has unintentionally created a being just as powerful as he is. As Shulk and the others enter the portal to bring them to Zanza, they arrive inside of memory space as well. To them, this area is confusing and strange. Enormous floating balls are placed all around at various distances. The reality is that this was the original state of the universe, the one from before Klaus's experiment tens of thousands of years ago. Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and Earth are visible on their path. Alvis speaks to Shulk again, telling him how excited he is to watch the next set of events play out. Eventually, they reach Zanza's location, the sentient Genesis. Zanza has changed since their last encounter. He now wears armor similar in design to the Bionis, and his wings have become one of organic composition and one of mechanical. He gives Shulk a chance to lay down his weapon and become his new disciple. He offers him eternal life and unimaginable strength. He points his Monado at Shulk and waits for his answer. Shulk stares him in the face and points his sword right back at Zanza. He has no desire to submit to him. His goal is to create a world without Zanza in it. Zanza makes it known that he's disappointed. He had a desire for friendship with the lives he created. Shulk replies by saying he has no idea what friendship is. He only selfishly wanted them around to perpetuate his own existence. With that, Zanza resolves to kill them all and prepares to attack. Shulk, Fiora, Rhine, Dunban, Sharla, Melia, and Ricky stand shoulder to shoulder, ready for him. Ready to change the future. During the fight, Zanza transforms into a much larger being, one that towers over Shulk and his companions. Despite this, they're still able to fight back against him. Zanza cannot comprehend how Shulk still has access to visions. They shouldn't be available to him without the Monado. Shulk jumps high into the air and shows him the reason why. All 7 hearts of the heroes resonate with one another. Their wills culminate within Shulk, and as he drops to the ground, he reveals his desires, manifested in physical form. Just as Alvis said, Shulk has found the true Monado. His Monado. Zanza is aghast, previously believing something like this was impossible for mere mortals. Alvis finally reveals the truth to Zanza, that as Monado, he is the true arbiter of the world. He was here at the beginning, and he will proclaim the end. He wasn't the strongest being in the universe. Alvis asks Shulk the same question as before. Does this world belong to Zanza, or does it belong to you? Shulk raises his Monado saying that he decided the answer to that long ago. The sword gathers power and displays a symbol meaning God. This blade, containing the hopes and dreams of everyone's futures, can slay a god.
Today, we use our power to fell a god, and then seize our destiny!
With the power of the world at his fingertips, Shulk cleaves Zanza's body in two. He has finally ended the curse of Zanza. Alvis, in his true form, shows Shulk some of the events that led to the creation of this world. In particular, he shows him an abridged version of Klaus's phase transition experiment, and how this single act changed the universe forever. He even explains to him that he was originally the machine that monitored the experiment. He shows him the history of Bionis and Mechonis, and what led to this day. Alvis, now giving him all the information he felt necessary, asks Shulk, the new god of this world, what he wants for the future. Shulk never thought this far ahead. All he wanted to do was stop Zanza. Unable to decide, he is greeted by visions of his friends who accompanied him on this journey. They remind him of how life can be so beautiful when the future is uncertain. Of course, an unknown future can be scary, but the point of life is to live. The choices we make define us in this vast world, and having an infinite number of them is how it should be. These choices change us, little by little, each day as it comes. That's their world. Shulk has made his decision. With a flick of his wrist, he throws his true Monado away towards Alvis and the other two Monados, completely giving up his visions, his power, his godhood. What he wishes for, what they all wish for, is a world with no gods. Alvis, the one who fostered the free will within this world, fulfills Shulk's request, and his universe begins changing. The Bionis falls, and the stars in the sky disappear, and for a moment, there's nothing. And then, everything. Shulk's new universe, where the possibilities are endless, has been born. Six months after the battle against Zanza, the inhabitants of Shulk's new world are slowly rebuilding. And while it's a difficult process, everyone is pitching in to make the bright future they fought so hard for into a reality. Machina now live alongside the people of Bionis in harmony, just like they did many years ago. Fiora walks through the streets of the new Colony 9 in awe of the progress. Throughout her walk, she encounters all the friends she made along her journey, and eventually finds Shulk, looking off at the distance outside Colony 9. "There you are," she says. For the first time in months, Shulk smiles, and finally lays eyes on Fiora. After all this time, her Hom's body has been completely restored. The two sit down and discuss what the future of this world might be. With Zanza gone, the shackles of fate have been removed. Shulk has no clue what the future holds. He recalls the last thing Alvis said to him before departing.
Shulk, this new world is boundless. It is home to not only you, but many forms of life. I can see it. In this world, all life will walk towards the future, hand in hand.
One day, I hope I can meet them all. The people of this endless world.
Me too. We will. I know it.
We'll meet them. And whatever happens, we'll face our future together.
One year on, much has changed. The people of this new world continue to prosper in Colony 9, living side by side. And Shulk has returned to developing weapons in his spare time, and even created a new replica Monado. The Monado Replica EX, or the Monado Rex for short. One day, Melia and Shulk decide to travel together to the remnants of the Bionis left shoulder. Their goal is to locate Alchemoth, which, since this universe was reborn, has been missing. According to Shulk's calculations, Alchemoth likely ended up in that region. Melia is determined to carve out a prosperous future for the Hyentia, and retrieving their capital is the first step in that. They depart on the junks together, but unbeknownst to them, two young Nuppons stow away on the ship, Kino and Nene. They're actually two of Ricky and Akka's children. Nene, Ricky's biological daughter, is headstrong and fights with a style similar to Ryan. She does what she can to protect Kino, who is much younger than her. Kino, on the other hand, fights in a style similar to Charla. Kino is actually adopted by Ricky fairly recently. He is a shy boy since a traumatic event led to him being an orphan. But after being treated with incredible kindness by Ricky and his family, Kino is determined to become a Hirapon himself. This is why the two of them followed Shulk and Melia. What was supposed to be a quick day trip turns into an extended stay when they reach the shoulder. Shulk spots Alchemoth, but almost immediately, a targeted blast of energy emanates from the capital, striking the junks. Shulk makes an emergency landing in a lake as Kino and Nene are thrown from the vessel. Shulk and Melia spot the two of them fighting a pack of Wolfs and quickly assist them. After they're safe, the four decide to travel together in order to reach Alchemoth. Shulk says that's also where they'll be able to find parts to fix the junks, which was badly damaged in the crash. On the way, they stop at a small camp called Companion's Cape. It's been set up by members of the Hyentia Imperial Guard, which became stranded here after the reformation of the world. Their leader, Maxis, advises Melia and the others to stay away from Alchemoth. The beam that struck their ship came from a creature that recently appeared, which they call the Fog King, a being made of smoke that cannot be attacked. All attempts by the Hyentia to damage it have only resulted in their weapons passing cleanly through. They launched a full-on assault against it and failed miserably. Many Hyentia died. Maxis has now resigned himself from ever attempting to take back Alchemoth. Also while at the Cape, they meet Galgar, a half-Homs Hyentia extremist. He despises pure-blooded Hyentia and revels in their extinction, much to Melia's discomfort. Galgar is seemingly the only person here who realizes that Melia is the princess. It's not her intent to deceive anyone, but she feels that discretion may make their mission a bit easier here. Galgar also insists on referring to her by the moniker Your Majesty, due to his excitement over the Hyentia's current ruler being half Homs. She does not like this. Despite his eagerness to please Melia, she refuses his offer to join them on their journey, but he does end up pointing them in the direction of Alchemoth nonetheless. On the way, Melia expresses discomfort with how she's handled leading her people. She feels that she's focused too much on what she wants, rather than what other Hyentia want. After some encouragement from the others, she realizes that regaining control of Alchemoth is of dire importance. That is truly what her people want. When they finally arrive at the capital's teleporter, they realize that it's somehow already been activated. When inside, they find a decimated city. Glass shattered, statues cracked, and weeds overgrown all across the streets. Directly in front of the palace, though, is an orange tear in the fabric of space. Shulk posits that since the world he created is so new, it's perhaps unstable in some way. Just as they finish getting their bearings, they hear a child scream from the nearby rift and run to their aid. When they reach the child, they realize that it's Teelan, the Hyentia boy that they assisted a year and a half prior during their journey to defeat Zanza. He's being attacked by a beast covered in black fog, and they surmise this to be the Fog King. After quickly dispatching the beast, they realize that the rift is reacting. It fires a blast of energy that nearly hits them, just like the one that took down the Junks. The actual Fog King emerges from the rift, and the heroes attempt to attack it. But, just as Maxis explained, it cannot be hit. Shulk recommends that they retreat with Teelan for now, and they all run back to the teleporter. After making it to safety, Teelan thanks them for their help. He tells them that it seems like the Telethia are doing their best to prevent the Fog King and its fog beasts from leaving Alchemoth. Melia asks Teelan what he was doing in Alchemoth alone, and he explains that he was gathering material for his Telethia research. He mentions that his big sis was the one who gave him special permission to go in, although he typically doesn't travel without her. This big sis is not really his sister though, and as they discover upon entering Teelan's lab, it's actually Tyrea, Melia's would-be assassin and Callian's other half-sister. It's been a while since Shulk and Melia saw her last, and it's clear that in that time, she's changed, whether she wants to admit it or not. After their previous encounter, she sought out a location to die in peace, but after happening upon Alchemoth, she felt it a boon gifted to her by Umea. Tyrea was there in the early days of the Fog King's appearance, and since then, she's protected Teelan and assisted him with his research. In a private conversation, Tyrea asks Melia point blank what she will do now that she is the Empress of the Hyentia. Their home is in disarray, and their people scattered. So, what is Melia's plan? She doesn't have much of an answer in regards to the future, but knows that first and foremost, they have to stop the Fog King. In stark contrast to their previous meeting, Tyrea looks forward to whatever future Melia will bring the Hyentia. Melia, Shulk, and their Nupon companions set out for Grandel, a multiracial settlement founded in the remains of an old giant village. Teelan has told them to seek out the leader of the survivors, Radzim, who welcomes them with open arms. They learn from the townsfolk that the soldiers at Companion's Cape used to live here, but their prejudice against the Machina made living together peacefully a difficult endeavor. After their multiple failed attempts to retake the capital, Radzim recommended giving up on the task. Every failure had cost them more and more soldiers. Their population was once in the hundreds, but that has since dwindled. Maxis and the other Hyentia blame the Machina for the current state of affairs, and have decided to live separately from the group. Despite their hateful rhetoric, the citizens of Grandel are more than happy to welcome them back, should they choose to return. Radzim tells Melia and her friends that the Fog King and Fog Beasts are restricted to Alchemoth, since the ether field that Telethia give off after absorbing ether is able to contain them. Radzim asks that he borrow some of Teelan's research to help him answer a couple of questions he has about Telethia physiology. Before they make their way back, they notice a rift growing in the sky around Alchemoth. These rifts both caused the Junks to crash, and appeared during their fight against the Fog King. They return to Alchemoth's transporter and notice that the rift is exceeding the ether field's density, giving the fog anomaly a wider reach. Now, monsters outside of the capital begin changing into fog beasts. After defeating them, Melia and Shulk realize that this means the Armu and Grandel could turn as well, and they hoof it back to the village. Sure enough, when they arrive, the Armu have gone rogue. Thankfully, they defeat them without much trouble. To understand why this is happening, they resume their journey back to Teelan's lab to retrieve his research. As they near the building, Gelgar commences an attack against Tyrea and Teelin. He's been watching from afar and is disgusted by their attempts at transforming Telethia back into Hyentia. He believes that they are the future of the race, that they are superior, and anyone who sides with the purebloods deserves to suffer the same fate. Melia will lead them to a new era of half-Hyentia supremacy. When Melia unequivocally denounces this way of thinking, Gelgar proclaims himself as the new leader of their race and moves to attack her. Overwhelmed by Melia and her friends, Gelgar falls to his knees, feigning defeat. Melia decides to spare him as long as he leaves this place, never to return. At that moment, explosives that Gelgar set within the lab are detonated, and the entire building erupts in flames. Without thinking twice, Melia summons water elementals around her and runs inside, closely followed by Shulk. In the commotion, Gelgar is able to grab Teelin, but before he can harm him, Telethia, likely Teelin's mother, knocks him down and chases him away. He will later end his own life after another unsuccessful attempt at usurping the throne. Seconds later, Shulk carries a fainted Melia out of the burning building. In her arms is the Book of Telethia research that they brought to Teelin when they first met in Aerith Sea. They bring Melia back to Grandel, and just like how they revived her in Machna Forest, Kino disperses ether crystals in the atmosphere to revive her. Almost immediately upon her awakening, Tyrea scolds her for being so stupid, for putting herself in such a dangerous situation. If the Hyentia lost yet another leader in this short amount of time, what would that mean for their future? The lab was far less important than her life. Melia disagrees, though. She believes that the salvation and prosperous future for her people lie in the research that Teelin and Tyrea have been gathering. It was worth the risk. Shulk and Radzim believe that they have a way to defeat the Fog King. After reading through Teelin's book, Shulk hypothesizes that since ether fields are able to contain the Fog King's power, if they were able to manifest an area of highly concentrated ether nearby the Fog King, it would fully pull the beast into their plane of existence and make it vulnerable to damage. All they need is high purity ether crystals, and they can infuse them with the Monado Rex to create a weapon capable of felling the Fog King. They get the supplies together, but before they're able to upgrade Shulk's Monado, fog beasts begin pouring in through the gates of Grandel. They destroy them, and Melia decides to head to Companion's Cape to enlist their help in defending against future attacks, and leaves Grandel under Tyrea's protection. Fog beasts are present at the Cape as well, and after assisting them, Melia manages to convince Maxis and his men that the future of their people can be obtained through collaboration with the other survivors on the shoulder. Of course, mistakes have been made, and it won't be easy, but their only chance at collective survival at this point is by uniting both camps. Tyrea and the small defense force at the gates are wearing thin, barely able to combat the fog beast's approach. As Tyrea readies herself for a battle to the death with a giant fog beast, Melia arrives with Maxis and his men, and together, the people of Grandel and Companion's Cape defeat the current threat. After the battle, Maxis and Radzim shake hands and officiate the reunion of the survivors. During this conversation, Maxis and Radzim learn that the girl that organized this alliance was none other than Melia Antiqua, leader of the Hyentia. Maxis proclaims that he and the companions will form her honor guard in the fight against the Fog King. Fearing that more soldiers will die protecting her, like in Machna Forest, she refuses. They are to remain in Grandel and protect the people there alongside Tyrea. After a few hours of tinkering, Shulk has made the necessary upgrades to the Monado Rex, now called the Monado Rex Plus. They can fight the Fog King head-on now. Before they go, Tyrea gives Melia the key to the Imperial Villa. She locked it so only she could enter, with the hope that the Fog King would be stuck inside. The Authenticator is her Bionite Order mask. She tells Melia that she has no need for it anymore. The horrid beliefs and closed mind that her mother passed on to her no longer hold her back. she fully supports and respects Melia as the leader of their people. Sisters by blood they are not, but nonetheless, sisters they have become. And so, Melia, Shulk, Kino, and Nene set out for Alchemoth. As Melia and her friends cross the bridge into the Imperial Villa, they notice that the Fog King looks different to their previous encounter. The widening of the rift seems to have strengthened it. Undeterred, Melia resolves to fell the beast here and now. Upon Shulk's activation of the Monado Rex Plus, they can now strike at the Fog King with ease. At one point, it looks as if they're victorious, but the rift widens even more, further increasing the Fog King's power. As they fight on, Shulk notices that the Telethia in the area are dive-bombing into the rift, destabilizing it and weakening its power. Without Zanza to command them, they're relying on their natural instincts, which are telling them that to preserve the world, they must help Melia and her allies. Invigorated by the Telethia's help and her friend's strength, Melia gathers up enough ether in the surroundings and unleashes all of it on the Fog King, defeating it once and for all and closing the rift. With the day saved, the heroes return back to Grandel, showered with praise for a job well done. The future of this world has been saved once again. Melia, Shulk, Kino, and Nene eventually return to Colony 9, and with everyone's help, Alchemoth is restored to its former glory over a period of months. To mark the dawn of a new age, the citizens of the world gather to witness the coronation of their queen, Melia Antiqua.
They're waiting for you, Melia.
Does this world need a coronation? I just don't see the point.
Don't say that. It is the will of the people. It will mark the birth of a new era.
You'd also have been a fine choice.
Yes, well, I'm occupied with my research, as you know, Empress Melia.
Don't mock me.
Here we go.
Yes.